But let's go to Qatar now. Reporter Paul Hawkins is there. Paul, I understand the Iranian fans booed their own anthem at the start of that game, but problems for England fans actually trying to get into the stadium.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they've had problems with the ticketing app, as you've been talking about. Not a good look for FIFA, and not good when you think about the preparations that have gone into this tournament. But at the moment, they are just teething troubles, and the game has still gone ahead. And it's no surprise that there were boos for the Iranian anthem from their own fans at the beginning of the game. We knew there was a political undercurrent to this match, and a lot of talk about social issues with. Are England going to wear that armband that represents LGBT rights? And then how are the Iranian fans going to respond in terms of solidarity with the women in their own country with regards to the issues that are ongoing there? So you've got this undercurrent of political and social issues, the backdrop to this game. And at the moment, though the football is taking centre stage, so as far as we know with what's happening on the pitch, England had a late VAR call potentially to another. They were surprised that VAR wasn't brought in to review it. Harry Maguire hauled to the floor. There's a possible penalty claim there, but at the moment it's 0-0 in the game. And then later on, of course, we've got Wales taking on the USA. That's 10 o'clock local time here when it's dark and a little bit cooler.
I'm going to say a bit more comfortable there. I was just talking to Harry Harris, of course, about the fact that maybe there should have been a bit more preparation to give them heat training to deal with this. I mean, what does it actually feel like out there, Paul?
Think of it like a very hot English summer's day when you get when the temperature reaches 30 degrees. That's how it feels in the heat of the day. But because the sun goes down only a little bit later than it does in the UK, sunset here is around 4:30. So those hot temperatures that actually during an English summer tend to continue into the evening, they do drop fairly quickly once we get to sundown, which is pretty much about now. So the sun dropping here in Doha, and it's starting to feel a little bit cooler, but then it stays at around sort of low 20s once we get into the evening. So it is still going to be warm for the Wales players this evening, but certainly not as hot as it is during the day, and even as hot as it is now. So it should be a much quicker tempo game that we're watching this evening, which probably plays into the Welsh hands a little bit more. You'll be pleased to hear, Mark.
But tell us a bit more about that Khalifa Stadium there. We heard about air conditioning, but that seems bizarre to try and air condition a stadium. What are they actually trying to do to cool things down?
Well, that's the main thing they're trying to do is to cool. I mean, they're allowed regular drinks, the players, but the main thrust of this tournament, obviously when it was awarded to Qatar, a lot of people were talking about what the weather would be like in the summer here. Then it was moved to the winter. And the Qataris have always been keen to emphasise that they are using the air conditioning in the stadiums. They're not closed, the roof isn't closed, so it's about keeping the ground temperature cool. So they're pumping in this cold air to try and keep it to a more reasonable temperature, sort of in the teens, as it were. But clearly, it's they're still fighting the elements outside, and so. The main thrust of it is using that air conditioning in the stadium. Other than that, the players just have to adapt to the temperatures. You would have thought the Iranians would be more acclimatised to it, but a lot of their players still play in Europe, so they will be struggling with the heat out there as well. And it will, of course, affect the temperature of the game. More emphasis on possession football and less about counter-attacking and playing at that higher tempo.
Yeah, OK. And what about the beers? Because we've had all these reports about them having to move the Budweiser main stand and to get it away from the stadiums as well. Have the supporters been able to get any beer?
Yeah, you're able to get beer here. It's obviously more difficult, but frankly, speaking to a lot of fans, as we have been today, Welsh and English fans, they're saying, frankly, we're not missing the beer that much. There are places we can go to get a beer. Some Welsh fans we were talking to earlier, they can get 5 pints and a curry for about 80 quid at a special fan zone that's selling alcohol in the build-up to tonight's match. But the interesting thing, Mark, is that, as you well know, football culture is synonymous with alcohol. And here, this is kind of like a huge social experiment. You're taking away the alcohol. How's that going to affect the atmosphere? Speaking to fans here and experiencing it myself, it's a much more chilled out, friendly vibe, and there isn't that anxiety, that worry that because of alcohol, some people are going to take things a bit too far and it's all going to kick off. So actually the removal of alcohol is making for a more convivial atmosphere here, and fans, frankly, they're not missing it, and they're going to get their pints in the fan zones and in the hotel bars, and they're not missing it too much, frankly.